Hello, my name is Jason of Zwemer Theological Seminary. I hope you're all okay today. I'm just sharing a few words about the Gospel of Barnabas. There are many Islamic scholars today and many Muslims that believe that the Gospel of Barnabas is a true gospel of the life of Jesus and that it gives a true picture of who Jesus is, where the Christian Gospels do not. And I just have to say that I believe that the Gospel of Barnabas is quite clearly, without a shadow of a doubt, with complete evidence, that the Gospel of Barnabas is an Islamic fake. An Islamic fake. And I can quite clearly show you for how that is on a number of fronts. First of all, the Islamic teaching about Jesus is that he was not the Son of God, that he was a prophet. Right? As soon as you read the Gospel of Barnabas, you hit that statement, the Son of God. And that Jesus is not the Son of God, that he did not claim to be the Son of God. And that is stated in the Gospel of Barnabas. So right away you see in a polemic against Christian theology, against Christian teaching, and it's Islamic polemic. Then another example is the Christian teaching that Jesus died on a cross. The Gospel of Barnabas takes the Islamic view that Jesus did not die on a cross. It says, whereupon he caused him to be scourged by his slaves who were paid by the scribes to slay him under the scourges, but God, who had decreed the issue, reserved Judas for the cross, in order that he might suffer that horrible death to which he had sold another. He did not suffer Judas to die under the scourges, notwithstanding the soldiers scourged him grievously, that his body rained blood. Thereupon in mockery they clad him in an all-purple garment, saying, it is fitting to our new king to clothe him and crown him. So they gathered the thorns and made a crown like those of gold and precious stones which kings wear on their heads. And this crown of thorns they placed upon Judas' head, putting his hand as a reed for a sceptre, and they made him sit in a high place. So that's quite clearly that Barnabas, the writer, supposedly is really writing an Islamic polemic, because that goes right against what we read in the Gospel of John and the other Gospels, where it says, then the Jews led Jesus, not Judas, from Cephalus to the place of the Roman governor. By now it was early morning, and to avoid ceremonial uncleanliness, the Jews did not enter the place. They wanted to be able to eat the Passover. So Pilate came out to them and asked, what charges are you bringing against this man? If he were not a criminal, they replied, we would not have handed him over to you. Pilate said, take him yourselves and judge him by your own law. Then Pilate took Jesus and had him flogged. So we just read that Judas was flogged. But here it talks about the soldiers twisted a crown of thorns and put it on his head. We read that it was Judas who had the crown of thorns put on his head in the Barnabas text. They clothed him in a purple robe and went up to him and again saying, Hail, King of the Jews, and they mocked him in the place. And once more Pilate came out and said to the Jews, look, I am bringing him out to you to let you know that I find no basis for a charge against him. When Jesus came out wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe, Pilate said to them, here is the man. So we read that Judas had the crown of thorns and wore the purple robe, and here he's saying Jesus did. And then he says later on, so the soldiers took Jesus carrying his own cross, and he went out to the place of the skull, which in Aramaic is called Golgotha. Here they crucified him, with him 2 others, one on each side, and Jesus in the middle. So in the Gospel of John and in the Gospel of Mark, Gospel of Luke and Gospel of Matthew, they all talk about Jesus dying on a cross. And the Gospel of Barnabas says it was Judas who took Jesus' place. So we have 4 Gospels, and we have Matthew, we have Mark, we have Luke, and we have John. John was an eyewitness. Mark was a friend of Peter. Matthew was an apostle. And we have Luke, who was a doctor who'd done much research in his time to find out information about Jesus, and got many documents. So we have these 4 Gospels, and they are in accord with the Apostle Paul and all his epistles, many epistles that say that Jesus was crucified. The Gospels are in accord with the Epistle 1 and 2 Peter, where it talks about Jesus was crucified. And then you have the letters of John, 1 John, 2 John and 3 John, that talk about Christ and that he is the one that we're to worship as the Son of God. So the 4 Gospels are in accord with the rest of the New Testament, and the Gospel of Barnabas isn't. But the final clinch is Irenaeus against the Heresies, 2nd century, says there are 4 Gospels and only 4, neither more nor less, 4 like the points of a compass, 4 like the chief directions of the wind. The church spread all over the world, as the gospel 4 pillars and 4 winds blow wherever people live. These 4 Gospels are in fact one single gospel, a fourfold gospel inspired by one Spirit, a gospel which has 4 aspects representing the work of the Son of God. These aspects are like the 4 cherubims described by Ezekiel in the prophet's word. The first had the likeness of a lion, symbolizing the masterly and kingly role of Christ in priesthood. The second had the appearance of an ox, the beast of sacrifice, recalling the perfect sacrifice of Christ. The third had the face of a man, undoubtedly referring to the coming of the Lord in human nature. And the fourth had the aspect of an eagle, with a clear allusion to the grace of the Spirit hovering the church. The 4 Gospels correspond to these symbols. Christ is at the centre of them. John actually speaks of his kingly and glorious sonship to the Father in his opening words. In the beginning was the Word. Luke begins with Zechariah offering sacrifice. Matthew chooses first of all the Lord's human genealogy, and Mark leads off by calling on the prophetic spirit which invests humanity on high. So there's an early church father, 2nd century, saying there were 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, and the Gospel of Barnabas is not mentioned. So please don't believe what the Islamic scholars are telling you. They don't know what they're talking about. The Gospel of Barnabas is a clear Islamic fake, written by some Muslim after the time of Muhammad, who wanted to influence Christian teaching and wrote that gospel to try and Islamicize Christian teaching. Thank you for listening. God bless you.